They act devoted. They look at you like you are the only person in the room. They hold you tight. They say the right things. They show up with warmth that feels rare. And then they disappear like it never happened. If you are anxious, this is the most addictive kind of pain because it does not feel like rejection. It feels like a glitch. Your brain keeps trying to solve it. What changed? What did I do? Were they lying? Were they scared? Were they using me? In this episode, I am going to explain what is actually happening inside an avoidant nervous system when devotion flips into distance, why your body bonds harder right before the disappearance, and how to respond so you stop chasing someone who regulates themselves by removing access. If this kind of clarity helps your nervous system settle, subscribe. PsychBond is a daily decoder for psychology, relationships, and avoidant and anxious attachment patterns, so you stop guessing. Here is the first truth that will calm you. Devotion and disappearing can come from the same person, without them being evil and without you being crazy. The reason is simple. What you are calling devotion is often a window of regulated closeness. What you are calling disappearing is often a window of threat response. In a secure system, closeness stays safe. In an avoidant system, closeness can feel safe while it is happening and then feel unsafe afterward, especially when they are alone, especially when the bond becomes real, especially when they can feel that closeness created expectation. So the switch is not always about whether they care. The switch is often about whether their body can tolerate what caring creates. When they are devoted, their nervous system is open. When they disappear, their nervous system is protecting. And the trap is that your anxious nervous system reads devotion as a promise. Your body says, "Finally, we made it. Finally, they are here. Finally, it is safe to attach." Then the disappearance lands like a sudden drop. That drop creates alarm. Alarm makes you reach. Reaching can make them feel pressure. Pressure spikes their threat response. Then they pull away harder. Now you are not just dealing with their pattern. You are dealing with a two-body circuit that keeps activating itself. Let me explain what this feels like inside your body, because that is where the hook lives. When they act devoted, your chest softens, your stomach relaxes, your mind goes quiet. You feel safe enough to attach. You feel brave enough to be real. You start imagining a future. You start letting your guard down. Then they disappear, and your body does the opposite. Your chest tightens, your appetite changes, your sleep gets lighter. You check your phone more, your mind starts scanning. Your brain tries to create an explanation because uncertainty is pain. When you do not have an explanation, your nervous system treats it like danger. And this is why a devoted then disappear pattern can become obsessive. It is not because you are weak. It is because your body is trying to get back to regulation, and it learned that their presence gives relief. So you start chasing relief, and you call that chasing love. Now, let us talk about what devotion looks like in these dynamics, because many people confuse intensity with devotion. Devotion is not just affection. Devotion is not just saying, "I miss you." Devotion is not just closeness in private. Devotion is steady care that does not vanish when intimacy happens. In avoidant patterns, what looks like devotion can be a surge. A surge is when they are fully in and it feels almost cinematic. They are attentive, they are generous, they are present. They make you feel chosen. But a surge is not the same as stability. A surge is often a regulated moment where they feel in control. They are choosing closeness while their body still feels free. The problem is that after the surge, their nervous system can register a cost. The cost can be emotional exposure, the fear of being depended on, the fear of losing autonomy, the fear of being expected to maintain that closeness, or the fear that the bond now has a direction they did not approve. So they disappear to lower the cost. The disappearing is not always a conscious decision. Sometimes it is a reflex. Sometimes it is shutdown. Sometimes it is a silent retreat where they tell themselves they just need space. But what they are actually doing is turning down the intensity inside their body. You can think of it like this. For an avoidant system, devotion can feel like walking into a warm room. Disappearing can feel like stepping back outside to breathe. For an anxious system, devotion can feel like finally arriving home. Disappearing can feel like being locked out without warning. Same event, two very different nervous system experiences. Now let me make this painfully practical. Here are the most common moments devotion flips into disappearance. Right after sex that felt bonded. Right after a vulnerable conversation. Right after you ask a simple clarity question. Right after a weekend together. Right after they say something intimate like, "I feel close to you." Right after they show you a softer side that makes the relationship feel real. Notice the theme. The flip often happens after closeness increases the meaning. When meaning increases, the avoidant nervous system can spike into threat, and the fastest way to reduce threat is distance. That is why you can feel them devoted in the moment and cold afterward. It is not always deception. It is often a threat response. But even if it is a threat response, it still hurts you. It still trains your body to fear intimacy. It still makes you feel unsafe. So the goal is not to excuse it. The goal is to understand it so you stop responding in ways that keep the loop alive. Now I want to name what happens in the avoidant body after devotion. This is the nervous system lens. When they are close, they may feel calm, connected, even proud that they are doing relationship. But after closeness, especially when they are alone, their body can start scanning. They may feel tightness in the chest, a restless urge to move, a sudden need to focus on tasks, a wave of irritation, or a blank, numb feeling. They may feel shame about how open they were. They may feel fear that you will now want more, need more, expect more. They might not have language for any of this, so they call it being busy, being tired, needing space, needing to focus, not wanting pressure. The label is not the truth. The sensation is the truth. The sensation is threat. And when the sensation is threat, distance becomes regulation. Distance lowers the alarm. That relief teaches the nervous system that disappearing works. Now look at what happens in the anxious body after devotion. Your system has just received a reward. You have just felt chosen. So your attachment system invests. Then the disappearance hits, and your body goes into alarm because the reward was followed by loss. And your brain does what it always does in alarm. It tries to regain control. It looks for causes. It looks for fixes. It looks for words. This is where over-explaining begins. This is where double texting begins. This is where apologizing begins. This is where you start editing yourself to be easier. But here is the thing. Over-explaining rarely calms an avoidant nervous system. It often increases the threat signal because long messages feel like pressure. Even if your intent is love, their body hears demand. So your anxious strategy and their avoidant strategy collide, and both people feel misunderstood. You feel abandoned. They feel cornered. And the bond gets more intense while the safety gets worse. That is the devoted, then disappear trap. Now let us separate two scenarios because this matters. Scenario 1 is devoted, then disappear because of deactivation. They care, but their body cannot tolerate sustained intimacy. Scenario 2 is devoted, then disappear because of convenience. They like the benefits of closeness, but they do not want responsibility. You do not need to diagnose which one it is on day 1. You just need to watch for repair and consistency over time. Deactivation without repair still harms you. Convenience without responsibility harms you too. The difference is that a person who is growing can learn to repair deactivation. A person who is using convenience will avoid repair and keep the pattern because it works for them. So your response is the same at first. You require a new structure. You do not chase devotion. You require consistency. Let us talk about what consistency means in simple terms. Consistency means they do not vanish after closeness. If they need space, they communicate it and give a return point. Consistency means the day after intimacy is not punishment. Consistency means they follow through on plans. Consistency means they can answer simple questions without making you the problem. Consistency means there is repair when there is a rupture. Now, what should you do the moment they disappear after acting devoted? Step 1 is regulate yourself before you reach. Your body will want to send 10 messages. Your body will want to fix. But your first job is to stop the spiral. Do not make decisions from panic. Do not write speeches from panic. Take a breath. Put your phone down for a moment. Name what is happening. My nervous system is activated. I want relief. Relief is not the same as truth. Then you do step 2. One calm anchor message, not a chase. Something like, I enjoyed being close with you. When you go quiet after that, it does not work for me. If you need space, tell me and give me a time you will reconnect. That is it. Short, clear. No begging, no attack. Then, step 3. You step back. This is not a game. It is nervous system safety. If you keep sending messages, you are handing them the power to regulate your body. You are also increasing their threat signal. So you step back and you watch. Their response is data. Now, let us talk about the return, because the return is where the pattern either ends or deepens. When an avoidant person returns after disappearing, they often want to go back to normal, fast. They might be playful, they might be sweet, they might act like nothing happened. Your nervous system will want to accept that because it feels like relief. But if you accept the return without repair, you teach the relationship that disappearing is allowed, and you teach your own body to tolerate rupture without resolution. So, you do a calm repair request. You say, I'm glad you are here. Before we go back to normal, we need to talk about what happened after we were close. I need a plan for what you will do next time you feel the urge to pull away. This is the moment of truth. A person with capacity might feel uncomfortable, but they will stay present. They will try. They will name something. They will agree to a simple structure. A person without capacity will dodge, blame, or punish. They will say, you are too much. They will say, you are creating drama. They will say, you should just relax. they will go cold again. That is information. And here is the key. You do not argue. You do not defend your need. You do not prove you are reasonable. You simply treat their response as data about capacity. If someone cannot do repair, they cannot do partnership. Now, I want you to hear the most important nervous system truth in this whole episode. Your body bonds hardest right before the loss. This is why devotion feels so powerful. Right when you feel them close, your system releases relief. Relief is one of the strongest bonding forces in human attachment. Then, the disappearance creates threat. Threat makes you focus. Focus makes you ruminate. Rumination makes them feel bigger than your life. Then, when they return, you feel relief again, and your brain calls that relief love. That is why the loop can feel like destiny when it is actually a stress response. Once you see this, you stop glorifying the highs and you start protecting yourself from the crash. Now, let us make it even more relatable with scenes, because your body recognizes scenes faster than theory. Scene 1 is the devoted weekend. They are affectionate. They cook with you. They hold your hand in the car. They talk like you matter. They say something intimate. You feel safe. Monday comes. Their texts get short. They do not initiate. They say they are slammed. You feel the shift. You want to ask what happened, but you are scared to ruin it. Scene 2 is the devoted night after a hard day. They call you. They open up. They tell you something personal. You feel close. The next day, you send a sweet message. Hours pass. You start checking your phone. They finally respond with something flat. You feel embarrassed for caring. Scene 3 is the devotion after you pull back. You finally get tired. You become quiet. Suddenly, they show up. They are attentive again. They ask to see you. They act like you are the one. Then, once you soften, they disappear again. These are not random moods. These are regulation cycles. The devotion often happens when they feel distance and fear losing access. The disappearance often happens when they feel closeness and fear losing control. That is the push-pull that creates addiction. Now here is the most dangerous moment in this cycle. It is not when they disappear. It is what you do inside yourself while they are gone. Your brain starts bargaining. You tell yourself, maybe they are overwhelmed. Maybe they had a rough day. Maybe I am being dramatic. Maybe I should not ask for anything. Maybe I should just be grateful. This is where anxious attachment turns pain into self-correction. You stop trusting your own perception. You start treating your standards like a problem. But if your body is bracing every time the relationship gets real, that is not you being dramatic. That is your nervous system responding to an unstable bond. You do not fix an unstable bond by becoming less human. You fix it by requiring a structure that makes the bond safer, or by leaving if the structure is not possible. Now, many of you ask the same question. If they act devoted, why can they not just stay that way? Because devotion requires tolerance. It requires the ability to hold closeness without panic. It requires the ability to be accountable to the bond you created. If their nervous system learned that closeness equals danger, they can perform closeness for a window, but the cost builds. The cost becomes discomfort. Discomfort becomes shutdown. Shutdown becomes distance. That is why telling yourself they should just do it does not help. The question is not what should happen. The question is what is happening and what you will do about it. Now, I want to speak to the anxious listener who is trying to be the perfect partner so the disappearing stops. You might be thinking, maybe I was too emotional. Maybe I said I miss you too soon. Maybe I asked for too much. Maybe I should be more casual. Here is what I want you to accept. You cannot become so perfect that you remove another person's nervous system triggers. You can be kind, you can be clear, you can be steady, and they can still disappear if their capacity is low. So stop turning their pattern into your personal homework assignment. Your job is not to become smaller. Your job is to become safer for yourself. That means you stop giving full access to someone who keeps removing access. It means you stop deepening intimacy with someone who does not do repair. It means you stop treating devotion as proof when devotion is followed by disappearance. Proof is what repeats. Proof is what stays. Proof is what repairs. Now, there is a very common trap right here. The trap is thinking that if you give them more space, the devotion will return and then stay. Space can help them regulate, yes, but space without standards is just abandonment training for you. The goal is not to become low need so they do not deactivate. The goal is to be in a bond where deactivation is handled with communication and repair, not silence. So you do not just give space. You ask for a new agreement. If you need space after closeness, tell me. Give me a return point. Do not leave me guessing. That is not pressure. That is respect. Now, what does capacity look like in real time? Capacity looks like them staying present when you ask a simple question about the relationship. Capacity looks like them being able to say, I feel overwhelmed. I need a day. I will check in tomorrow. Capacity looks like them following through. Capacity looks like them repairing without you begging for it. Capacity looks like a pattern that becomes more stable over time, not just more intense. Now, what does low capacity look like? Low capacity looks like them labeling your needs as pressure. Low capacity looks like them punishing you with silence after closeness. Low capacity looks like them returning with entitlement to your warmth without taking responsibility for the gap. Low capacity looks like the same cycle repeating, just with different excuses. That is the data you need. You do not need to read their mind. You need to read the pattern. Now I want to address a fear that keeps many anxious people stuck. The fear is, if I bring up repair, they will leave. If they leave because you asked for basic communication and repair, they were not safe to build with. You were staying because of potential, not because of reality. Reality is how they handle closeness. Reality is what happens after devotion. Reality is whether you feel calm or constantly braced. Secure love is not a guessing game. It is not a puzzle. It is not a reward system. It is simple. It is steady. It is safe. Now for the avoidant listener who recognizes themselves, here is the clean repair skill in plain words. If you feel overwhelmed after closeness, do not vanish. Send a simple message that keeps trust intact. I feel overwhelmed after how close we were. I do not want to go quiet on you. I need a day to settle. I will check in tomorrow evening. That message does not trap you. It does not demand you perform intimacy. It simply prevents harm. It keeps trust intact. It gives your nervous system space without giving the other person panic. That is what maturity looks like. If you cannot do that, you will keep recreating the same heartbreak, and you will keep calling it incompatibility, when it is actually a regulation problem. Now, if you are anxious, here is what maturity looks like for you. You stop trying to regulate their fear with your softness. You stop performing calmness as a way to earn consistency. You become calm through structure. You become calm because you know what you will do if the pattern continues. That is the real secret. The anxious nervous system settles when it trusts your own follow-through, not when it trusts their mood. So build trust with yourself. If they disappear after devotion, I will send one anchor message and step back. If they return, I will require repair. If there is no repair, I will reduce access and slow down intimacy. If the pattern repeats, I will leave. That is not harsh. That is self-protection. Now, let us talk about the moment when they come back devoted again, because this is where many people get pulled back in. They return with sweetness. They act like nothing happened. They might even give you a bigger devotion surge than before. This is often the hardest part because it feels like you were wrong to worry. It feels like you finally got them back. But here is the only question that matters. Did the structure change? Did they acknowledge the disappearance? Did they offer a plan? Did they demonstrate that closeness will not be punished next time? If not, you are being soothed back into the same loop. So, your response must be calm and specific. I enjoy you. I want something steady. Before we move forward, we need to address what happened and agree on what we do next time. Then, you watch. If they can do that, there is capacity. If they cannot, you have information. And information is what frees you. Now, let me give you a final recalibration that will change your whole dating life. When someone acts devoted, then disappears, do not ask, "How do I get them back to devotion?" Ask, "What does devotion mean if it does not include staying?" Ask, "What does love mean if it punishes closeness?" Ask, "What does my nervous system need to feel safe?" Then, act from that answer. The goal is not to win devotion. The goal is to live inside a relationship where devotion does not vanish, where closeness does not trigger silence, where you can relax the day after intimacy instead of bracing for loss. If this pattern is your story right now, you are not alone and you are not broken. You are responding like a human nervous system responds to contrast. But you can interrupt the loop. You interrupt it by being brief instead of chasing, by requiring repair instead of accepting resets, and by choosing consistency over intensity, even when your body wants the high. Because real love is not the moment they act devoted. Real love is what happens the next day. Welcome to PsychBond. You're safe here.